What is going on, everybody? And today is the very first episode of Inside the Sidelines, episode 1. I am your gracious host, Mitch Smith, along with a very special guest, a co-host of the Box Network podcast, hosted by Zach, and to the man to my right over here, Mr. Aaron Walton. Thank you for coming on, sir.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, like you mentioned, quick shout out to the glorious lacrosse world. Me and our good buddy Zach, we do the BOX Network on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook. We cover all Buffalo Bandits. Pretty much all Buffalo Bandits and anything little that big that comes in the world of lacrosse. But yeah, you can find me over there. But thank you, Mitch, for having me on.
Yeah, not a problem. And, shout out to that podcast. Tune in every week, guys. It's a very fun time. Go check them out. Facebook, YouTube, subscribe if you have to. Also subscribe to this channel if you guys don't mind. We really appreciate the positive feedback, appreciate all the likes and all the support. We're really excited to do this, and let's pop into it, Aaron. So what did you think about week 3 of the NFL season? I just want to get your thoughts and what you think your feedback is on all the games.
I mean, we do, obviously, all those picks with our, good buddy Dan. And I felt like, week 3 was very similar to week 2 in a way, because once again, there were quite a few upsets, I guess I should say. That's been happening for the past couple weeks now. You got week 3, week 2, there was a couple. So, I'm down for a good upset. I know you're down for a good upset as well, but yeah, it's been pretty crazy in the NFL world so far.
Yeah, and I mean there was a lot of crazy upsets. Let's talk about Carolina, man. First win after benching Bryce Young. Former first overall pick getting benched for the Red Rifle himself, Andy Dalton. What I saw from the highlights, Aaron, I don't know if you watched them yet, but Andy Dalton looked comfortable. I mean, he looked comfortable all game. I mean, there was some like little flares here and there of the Bengal Andy Dalton, and first win. And hey, it didn't come easy for them either. I mean, first win against I believe it was the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders.
Yeah, and they were riding hot too. I mean, for a little bit. With Minshew over there in Las Vegas, but I wanted to get your thoughts on that game.
Yeah, I was definitely surprised with this one. Vegas coming, back home after that win against Baltimore last week, which was definitely surprising. But yeah, like you said, Andy Dalton, he played like he was meant to play for a team like Carolina, I guess, because he was great. I mean, he went 26 for 37, over 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. No picks. Hubbard was great on the ground. Deontay Johnson, who, of course, I had on my bench in fantasy football, but, of course, that didn't matter. I still won anyway. But besides the point, Deontay Johnson was great in the air, and then, he spread the ball around pretty well. Hubbard had a receiving touchdown. Adam Thielen had a receiving touchdown, who I think they said they put him on IR this week, I believe.
Did I didn't see did Xavier Legette do anything?
42. He had 2 catches for 42 yards. He had 3 targets. I mean,
okay, so yeah.
I mean, he's getting the ball, but yeah, overall, I mean, it was a pretty surprising game. Minshew played Aiden O'Connell, he came in for a little bit for the Raiders. He went 9 for 12. 82 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, not bad on his part. But yeah, it was a very surprising game. But, I mean, props for Carolina. I mean, to go bench your number 1 guy and Bryce Young and then go to Andy Dalton, the veteran backup, definitely props to them.
Yeah, and just want to give a quick shout-out to your cat above your shoulder over there. And
there he is.
Yeah, there he is. He's making a quick appearance. Well, I guess we can have 2 guests on the podcast today. But shout out to the furry fuzzball over there.
Yeah.
It was was really shocked. I mean, and you know me, Aaron, and you know me as better than as better as the draft guy. In our friend,
Mm-hmm.
it's just I don't want to say I told everybody so, but I liked CJ Stroud better than Bryce Young. That's coming from a Michigan State fan, because Bryce Young CJ Stroud just absolutely humiliated Michigan State in that blowout victory that he was faced. But I had a chance to see him and Marvin Harrison Jr. But I mean, I always said, I mean, if Houston went CJ, if Carolina went CJ, I mean, we may be talking about different career paths, but who knows? I mean, maybe if Bryce didn't go number one, maybe Houston would have taken Bryce, but we would have been, then this would have been a different conversation. But again, like, I mean, I think it's going to be good for Bryce. I mean, it's not like he's not going to be a starter anymore. It's not like his backup career begins. I just think they need to put him in the right situation. Get a couple more receivers other than Leggett.
Yeah.
Get your offensive line in check. Worry about your defense another day, and just let the kid sit. I mean, like I said, it's not that he's not gonna succeed in the NFL. Again, by sitting, it doesn't hurt anybody. And you can see it definitely with young QBs too. I mean, look at May; he's waiting for his opportunity. And I mean, we could say about that, but JJ is he's hurt right now, so it's like you really can't say that about JJ right now. Other than I don't think he would be starting, even if he was still healthy. I think that Darnold's been playing fantastic, and it's his revenge tour. It looks like for them, and
Mm-hmm.
like I said, it shocks me that you go from the young gun to an old gun, and Andy Dalton's performing like nothing's changed. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
just kind of it's you just got to find your right spot. I mean, look at like the Commanders, Jaden Daniels. I mean, he's absolutely
yeah,
lighting it up over there in Washington. So I mean,
yeah,
I feel like Washington definitely has found their guy.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, I do hope they eventually can work it out with Bryce. But I mean, there's obviously those trade rumors like you know I'm here, maybe trade him to like Miami or something, with
yeah,
Tua's injury prone concussion stuff going on.
yeah.
You're gonna get your trade rumors, and it's just a matter of like I I I feel like they obviously shouldn't give up on him just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a position where you're just not winning games anymore,
Yeah.
like do they completely sell again? Maybe trade, Bryce. Maybe he becomes, like that past Sam Darnold. He becomes like a backup to a team, and then free agency rolls around. He kind of bounces to teams like Darnold did. And then, at some point, he's going to find his home like, Darnold did with Minnesota. So
Yeah.
it's
And
just kind of a waiting game.
yeah, I mean, yeah. Do you think Bryce gets traded?
I don't know. I know they said that they don't want to trade him just yet. But yeah, I don't think you trade him right now. I
Yeah,
think
no.
you kind of wait it out, see how you do, the rest of the year,
Mm-hmm.
and then take it to free agency, give him some more weapons other
Yeah,
than Deontay Johnson. You got to find him
yeah,
that legit number one guy who's willing to come to Carolina,
yeah,
and then kind of just play it out for next year. And then if maybe next year is he's just not cutting it, then maybe look to kind of selling the team a little bit.
yeah. I know, and yeah, no, that would be really hard. I mean, I've always was a Carolina fan ever since Newton was there, and it sucks. It sucks that Carolina is like this right now, and they had such a good defense, man. I mean, you think about Brian Burns and no longer there, and you talked about selling the team like Derek Brown. I mean, I think he's out for the year. Your Gross Montos, he left. I think he left for the Eagles, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, he left. I mean, Derek Brown and JC Horn, and then Horn over on the cornerback side. Those are your two kind of stud defenders, and it'll be interesting to see if they do decide to say, "Hey, listen, throw us some picks and we'll talk and we'll see. I mean, I don't want that to happen to Bryce. I mean, I don't want them to destroy his confidence in a player. I mean, yeah, I mean, hypothetically saying, give a scenario. Let's see, what team would you think that would go after Bryce?
I mean, I know I had mentioned Miami. I
I
feel
can
like
see that.
Miami would make sense. I mean, obviously, trading a QB like him, you probably wouldn't want to keep him in the NFC.
Yeah.
Just, for that reason. So I feel like it would make sense to trade him to the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I definitely feel like Miami would kind of be that team. Because, I mean, Tua, I don't see him playing football much longer.
No, I don't think anyone has.
And they just have nobody behind him. Skylar Thompson has looked absolutely awful. And then you got who's their third stringer? What's his name? Because I think
I don't remember. I think
Tim Boyle.
Yeah, Tim Boyle. Yeah, he played.
Because Thompson, he got hurt
Mm-hmm.
against Seattle, so then they had to play Tim Boyle. So I mean, yeah, you literally have nobody.
Yeah.
Behind Tua, if he even comes back at all this year, who knows?
Yeah.
So I mean, Miami would probably be my number one, definitely.
What about what do you think about Las Vegas?
Yeah.
Do you think have you seen enough from Aiden? Do you think that Aiden's going to be the number one eventually?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he looked.
That would be a certainly interesting division, though. You got to admit
that would be. I mean, he looked okay against Carolina this past Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he went 9 for 12, 82 yards and a touchdown. But I mean, that's such a small sample size.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. From what I saw last year, before they obviously brought Minshew in, he didn't look like the guy at all.
Mm-hmm.
Even with a number one and Devontae Adams on that team.
I know.
It's very curious, to what his future holds as well. Like, is he going to want to stay with Vegas long term?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that definitely could be an option as well.
Yeah, I know, and it's going to be interesting to see. And like I said, going back to it. I mean, this year's not really a stacked quarterback class. I mean, you got your Shador, you got Carson back from Georgia, and then you can throw in Quentin Ewers from Texas this year too. So I mean, you got 3 solid QBs coming out this year, but it's not really deep. And it's like if you have a first round pick, you're a quarterback hungry team, like like the Giants are going to be. Everyone's expecting them to be. Maybe the Raiders could be in a market, maybe the Dolphins could be in the market. You never know. Coming this year, be certainly interesting to see what those quarterback, maybe needy teams. We don't know about Tua yet, so it would be interesting to see what those teams could be like, and kind of just like I said, it'd be interesting to see what this offseason brings, because everyone knows that the Giants are going to go after a QB. We all know that, I think.
Yeah, I would say so.
Yeah, and that's another team that kind of I want to talk about here is the Giants. They strung up a solid performance, I think, in my opinion. But they got Neighbors going. I think he had 2 touchdowns in that, I think they said, and finally got the kid going. But obviously that's only one game though. Like it's the Giants. Like you can't really give them based off of one performance. I mean, is this a start of something? Remains to be seen. But again, it's the Giants. I don't think anything's going to come out of that win. I think it's just the other team wasn't having a great day. And speaking on the topic of QBs, Jaden Daniels, man. Woo! I don't know if you had a chance to watch that game after the Bills game, but woo! What a performance by the kid.
Yeah, I unfortunately did not catch that one, but he was almost perfect.
I know.
He had like a 91% completion percentage or something like that, but he went 21 for 23, 254 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. He even had a rushing touchdown as well. Terry McLaurin had an even 100 yards receiving. They even got Luke McCaffrey going a little bit.
So yeah, they got the kid going.
But Eckler, Robinson all had rushing touchdowns. But yeah, I mean it's definitely looking pretty promising for the kid.
Yeah, and do you think it's still the Eagles' division?
What is that?
Do you think it's still the Eagles' division?
That, it's tough. I mean, Philadelphia's. I mean, they did have that impressive win against New Orleans,
Mm-hmm.
but I mean, it's going to be tough. I feel like this year it's going to come down to maybe like a Washington, Philadelphia, because usually it would be Philadelphia and Dallas, but Dallas has not looked great at all this year.
Exactly.
So yeah, I don't know. It might come down to like a Washington, Philadelphia, but I don't know. I feel like at the end of the day, it's probably, as of right now, still going to be Philadelphia's division. I feel like Washington, they're, still a young team. They still have them, have some things to work out
Yeah.
a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see, maybe like a new division rivalry, maybe brewing with Jaden Daniels at QB now.
Yeah, and it shocks me that this year is very interesting. You see a lot, like you said, we'll go back to what you said. It's week 2 and week 3, a whole lot of upsets. I mean, in our predictions, I only went 6-10 this week.
Mm-hmm.
And 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 I was like, all right, well, I mean, maybe I'm finally on the downfall of starting to pick weird teams. I mean, obviously this week is a little bit different for me. I shook it up a little bit. I didn't go with the normal teams, and you're gonna be pretty shocked of who I picked during Bills and Ravens. So, but no spoilers yet. I'll let Dan do the posting, and shout out to his podcast too. I gotta give some love to him. Gotta give some love to him. He's the one that kind of inspired me and helped me to kind of do this too as well. So, shout out to the Kelly cast and shout out to Mike and Dan. So go check them out, subscribe on YouTube for them as well. And I mean, it's just, this week was interesting, man. I mean, I think Baltimore's going on the topic, Baltimore Bills. Baltimore, man. Hey, I think maybe they figured it out now. Aaron, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
They finally got King Henry going too.
yeah, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns for him. Yeah, I don't know. Baltimore's looking very iffy as well this year.
I know that's another team.
I feel like maybe they got a little lucky because they're playing a very very iffy Dallas team as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I feel like you would definitely get that answer next week. Like, the question would essentially be, are the Bills legit if they could, shut down Henry again,
Mm-hmm.
shut down Lamar, or if Baltimore somehow maybe does pull out a win, like, okay, Baltimore's back, they finally figured it out against a legit team.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know, because Baltimore almost blew that game. They were
They almost did,
winning.
yes.
It was like, I don't know the exact score, but they were winning by like 2-3 possessions or something like that. 2-3
Yeah.
scores. Dallas came back but fell short by a field goal. So
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I mean, Lamar had an okay game. He didn't throw the ball a lot. It was, like you said, it was mostly Derrick Henry who pretty much controlled that game. But yeah, I don't know. It's still early, I feel like, for Baltimore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, again, like, jumping on the topic of, if Baltimore is, struggling, or if they're finally, like, teams are finally figuring it out against them, it's more so how is Baltimore off to the slow start? It's not everyone. I saw like Todd Munkin, their offensive coordinator. They're saying, is he the problem? I'm like, it's not him. I don't think. I think it's just, I don't know. Like, I really can't say what Baltimore is. I mean, like, that division is going to be another division that's going to be, I think, highly competitive, with the Steelers being 3-0 with Justin Fields, with the Bengals on the downfall for some random reason. Like, what's going on there in Cincinnati? And then you got Cleveland, which is, Cleveland, are they going to be a mid team that's going to be picking in, between 10 and 15 this year? Like, you never know. Like, and it's too early to tell. Would you say, like, week 4, going into week 4, do you think it's too early to tell on what teams are going to be like?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, with Baltimore, Yeah, it's definitely questionable because I mean I know they've had success
Mhm.
before, but you the game that Lamar had, it was I mean it was good. He went 12 for 15. It's still, a good, rating and stuff like that. But I feel like you have, Henry, who's definitely, maybe like top 5, maybe a top 3, you can argue, running back in the league.
Yeah.
And then you have, Lamar, he's a scrambler QB, and they both obviously led the way in rushing. But, they still don't really have that number one guy receiving. So it's like, if you can handle Baltimore in the run game, then everything else should really be a breeze,
Mhm.
essentially.
Yeah.
Uh, if you could stop Derrick Henry in the run game, I wouldn't be so worried about Lamar throwing the ball,
Mhm.
because it was Nelson Aguilar who led the way in receiving last week against Dallas. He only had 56 yards though, so I mean I
Yeah.
know they have like Zay Flowers, who they argue to be maybe their number one, Rashad Bateman, Isaiah Likely's not really getting the ball anymore after his big performance in week
No,
one
I thought he
against
would
the
be giving the
Chiefs.
ball more. Yeah.
And then,
Yeah.
you have Mark Andrews, who's just absolutely nowhere to be seen anymore
Yeah.
with Baltimore. So, yeah, I don't know if just these guys just aren't, they're just not going as of right now. And they just need, a couple weeks to finally get it going. But
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, again, it's just interesting with Baltimore because you consider them one of the top teams in the AFC with the Bills, with the Chiefs, and others, but it's like they're off to what, a 1-2. They're off to a 1-2 start. I mean,
one,
I'm glad.
yeah,
Yeah, and it kind of, it should scare us a little bit, I think, in my opinion. We're not going to take them lightly. I'm certainly not taking them lightly. I mean, obviously, I think you're not going to take them lightly. I think our whole friend group's not going to take them lightly. I just think going into Baltimore, which kind of leads into this next thing, are you, I mean, this is kind of, I'll tell you right now, I did pick Baltimore to win the game. I did.
okay.
I just think, as much as that we're riding high right now, as much as the offense is getting going, and as much as I love that he's not turning that ball over anymore eventually, I just think Baltimore still has that, that flair that they're like, hey, listen, this is not who the Baltimore is. We're gonna turn it up now. Since we got our first win under our belt, we're gonna keep going.
I mean, I definitely see it. I know there's going to be a lot of mixed opinions about it,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean even I had mixed feelings about it, because I took advantage that we're the road team. It's going to be in Baltimore, so that's obviously your number one concern. And Baltimore, they're coming off their first win. They're
Mm-hmm.
obviously going to want to keep that momentum going, and it's just our problem is, yes, we did a fair job of holding, like ETN and stuff like that. He only had 68 yards. You go back to week 2 against the Dolphins, Devon Achan, he had 96 yards. And then obviously you go back to week 1, and that was just a whole different story. You had James Conner. I mean, we only held him to 50,
Mm-hmm.
but he did have a touchdown. He did have 33 receiving yards.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my only concern. I mentioned running backs because, I mean, it's definitely different this year. It was definitely a struggle for the Bills last year, but I mean, they're doing a okay job of stopping the run
Yeah.
this year. That's just my number one concern.
Yeah.
Can this defense keep up with stopping the run? Because we have a lot of guys on defense that are out.
Yeah.
We have a lot of young guys on defense.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just my concern right now. Are these guys going to be able to take that next step?
Yeah.
The Bills always talk about, next next man up mentality
Mm-hmm.
with all these injuries happening. So that's just my only concern.
Yeah.
And all these, young guys, all these rookies, take that next step and stop the run against a guy like Derrick Henry.
Yeah, and I'll piggyback off of what you said. It's like it is interesting to see this new change in era that the Bills have, and it is going to be interesting. We still got our faces, we still got Ed, we still got Russo, we still got
Mm-hmm.
Epineza, we still got Daquan. The regular front four. You think
Yep.
going into Baltimore, and then you obviously got Von starting to catch the stride a little bit here and there. We've seen flashes here and there. Got a sack last night, so
Yep.
shout out to Von and finally getting it going. I've been a big Von supporter. I mean, contract not so much, but yeah, no, it's good to see him a little bit going and how they're rotating him back in. Obviously, he's not a full timer anymore, so he's not out there every single down anymore, like he was in Denver. And I don't know how the Rams used him, but shout out to shout out to Von for finally getting it together finally. And yeah, I mean, arguably with two of our best pieces, because we don't know about Johnson yet, and we obviously Bernard's out for I think a month now. So obviously, arguably our two biggest pieces now off the defense, and obviously Milano being out till December. Arguably, you got Bernard out, who's mainly I think your run stopper there, and it'd be interesting to see if Baltimore goes more run heavy than pass heavy. But I wouldn't surprise me if they start going passing a little bit here and there. Because they might attack the middle of the field. They might do something because they know that Spector and Dorian Williams are still very new, and we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Like I said, it's more so can they stop the run more so can stop the run than stop the pass. And I'm not concerned about the pass. Douglas and Benford look great. Hate to say it, but I mean, you can agree with me. Cam Lewis has been solid, and Ingram has been solid. In Tron's absence. So, as much as I am a Cam Lewis and a Ingram hater, shout out to them, and good for them for holding it down. And I wanted to actually bring up this topic. Actually, speaking of that, do you think, or when do you think it is time for the Cole Bishop season to finally begin?
That I don't know, but I am definitely excited to see him come onto the field. Because I know, he's fully healthy, right? Or
Yeah, yeah.
are they
So he
still
was in the game
concerned?
during Miami.
Okay, yeah, I thought I saw him come out in the field. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's that, yeah, I don't know. I would like to, maybe see a little bit more like, splitting, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah, I mean, one day he will be a starter
Mm-hmm.
on this team. I am when they drafted Cole, I definitely looked, a lot into him and stuff like that. And yeah, I definitely think he could at some point be, your Jordan Poyer replacement.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, definitely excited to see him. When will he, get a little bit more reps? I don't know. I mean, obviously, pending injuries or, whatever, but I do expect him maybe to pop in very soon, I would hope.
Yeah, and I'm like you. I looked him up because I didn't realize that he was on the radar. Charles Davis actually is the one who called this pick because during pre-draft, he said he was talking to the Bills, and I believe he was talking to McDermott or Brandon Bean, and he goes, "You're looking for a safety. Cole Bishop's your guy, hard hitter thumper down in Utah." So I was like, "Ooh, I mean, I was a big Cam Kitchens guy, Rams safety, and I was really big on Kitchens, and I really liked Kitchens. I watched a lot of Miami tape on him, and on I was really hoping for Cam, but I guess they saw something in Bishop that I didn't see, obviously, because they know more than we do, and it'll be interesting to see if they're finally gonna rotate him in. Because if they are getting frustrated with Rap, I know DeMar just had that big pick, congrats to him. But, when is enough going to be enough to finally be like, okay, now we got to play the kid. Let's see what he's got. Let's see if he can be that over the top safety or that ball hawking safety that, that I think they're kind of looking for right now.
Mm-hmm.
Because Damar and Rapp, I mean, they haven't been really talked about. Yes, they've been brought up in, the broadcast saying, those are two new safeties and we understand like what's going on and, what this is what's that about, what this is about, how they lost Poyer, how they lost, the whole song and dance. So yeah, I mean, I am excited to see him. It's just a matter of when is it going to be time to finally be like, all right, Cole, you're in, you're going to go out and prove it now. And I think this is kind of going into our like a little bit of a next topic or a little bit of what young player I think around the league have you seen that's really impressed you so far? I mean, I really like Jaden Daniels so far. I mean, he's kind of impressed me. He's the one that kind of stands out to me. And none of the to be surprised, none of the wide receivers haven't really impressed me so far. I mean, yes, Harrison had one game of a great performance that we all know that there's many more to come like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a little bit disappointing of how hyped the wide receivers coming out of this year, but how hyped they're going to be coming. One moment, hang on, So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see what the like Jane Daniels has been the one, like I said, is the outstanding one right now for me. And I can throw Coleman in there, obviously too, man. I mean, congrats to him getting his first career NFL. I was so happy. I was jumping up and down last night, and I'm really happy that he got his first out of the way. Now he can just go out there and be him, man. I mean, it's not like Josh is not throwing it to him, but obviously it's wide open pass, man. But hey, get the first one out of your way in that. But yeah, no, Jane Daniels is the one that stands out for me. How about you?
Yeah, definitely Jane Daniels is probably one. Another guy that I would probably have mentioned is Jordan Mason.
Yes.
Out of San Francisco, he's essentially the backup running back to Christian McCaffrey, who knows when he'll come back. So it's, essentially the Jordan Mason show right now in San Fran. They did have that surprising loss to the Rams yesterday or Sunday. So that was obviously definitely surprising. But Jordan Mason, I mean, he's been great. I mean, look at the last, couple weeks here. Trying to pull that up. Against the Rams, he had 19 rushes, 77 yards. It was more of a quieter day for him. But that game against Minnesota, he had 100 yards, one touchdown. The game against the Jets was his biggest game, 147 yards and a touchdown. I think that was that game where they announced. I think that was their first game, because then that's when they announced McCaffrey was going to go to IR. He had that big game against the Jets, and then he's been nothing but their guy with McCaffrey gone. So it's just crazy, because it's like San Fran, I mean, they're sitting at 1-2 right now, which is obviously surprising because, they were, obviously Super Bowl favorites and stuff like that. But San Fran, they keep finding, these guys, because it's like when McCaffrey comes back, yes, he's going to, obviously take away that, workload that Mason's getting, but they obviously, have a very legit backup, because we all know, McCaffrey, he can never play a full, 18-game season because he's always hurt most of the time. So it's definitely, good to see that it's like, okay, well, you get hurt. Well, we still have Jordan Mason. So he's definitely on my radar. I have him in fantasy. But yeah, definitely, yeah, Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's obviously, on the radar as well, but it would definitely have to be Jordan Mason for me. I mean, like you said, you got your obvious, guys, Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, all those guys, but, yeah, they just haven't, been impressive as of late. I know it's going to take time with them being rookies and all that, but yeah, to definitely answer your question, it would have to be Jordan Mason for me.
Yeah, and kind of, what you said there. Do you think? Do you think? What do you think of Caleb Williams so far? Speaking of young guys.
I don't want to say, I don't want to put him on the spot, obviously, and say that he's bad already. It definitely doesn't help that he doesn't have, an offensive line in front of him.
Yep.
So that obviously hurts. I mean, the game against the Colts, I mean, he threw the ball a ton. Um, he completed 33 passes out of 52 attempts, 363 yards, 2 touchdowns. But, obviously, the picks, obviously have to, come down a little bit. He had the 2 against Indy, 2 against Houston. So, I mean, you're already at 4 right now through like 3 games. So it's obviously going to be a learning curve for him. But as of right now, if you're looking at rookie quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels would obviously be number 1, as of right now, through the first, 3 weeks of the year.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is what it is. I'm sure, he'll eventually find his groove. Hopefully, the offensive line situation can get figured out.
Yeah.
But I
Is
mean,
there? Yeah. I mean, yeah, and kind of going off of the Bears, and this kind of and any NFL team to be exact. What what division has surprised you the most so far?
what division? Let's see.
Because the division for
Let's
me, I
go through here.
honestly think would be the NFC South. Honestly, um, just because I know I kind of look at the Saints, man. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think they were actually going to win their division. I mean, but it's looking like it, man. I mean, Derek Carr, looking like a top 10, top 5 quarterback. You think this year, and the Atlanta kind of getting it going a little bit. Sad to see them lose the KC game a little bit, but I mean them in Atlanta, man. I mean, and then obviously you got to throw in obviously the Bucks. Obviously, they'll. I think they got to try to find it out, but that's and Carolina's Carolina, but we don't know. We don't know yet. But again, it's only going to be going into week 4. So I mean, NFC South is kind of my shocking division this year. Like I said, it's just because of how good the Saints and the Falcons are looking like right now, man.
Yeah, if I had to pick 2 from each side, it would, for the AFC, it would be the AFC North.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's definitely surprising seeing Pittsburgh sitting pretty at 3-0, first in that division. Um, they definitely made, as of right now, the right call starting Justin Fields,
Yeah.
which is a shocker. And then you have Cleveland and Baltimore, tied right there at 1-2, and then Cincinnati at 0-3. So it's definitely surprising. Like, you would think, the 2 bottom feeders of that division being top 2 as of right now. That's obviously
Mm-hmm.
pretty weird to see. And then I would have to probably say maybe the NFC West. Seattle sitting pretty at 3-0 as of right now, and then you got Arizona and LA and San Francisco all tied at 1-2. So I mean, that division's kind of still up in the air. Is San Francisco gonna figure it out? LA hasn't really looked that great. I would assume Arizona might be okay this year. I mean, they obviously had a pretty solid
Mm-hmm.
performance week 1 against Buffalo, and then that what was it like? What was their? Was it the Rams? Yeah, it was the Rams. That big impressive win against the Rams, and then they kept it close against Detroit
Yeah.
a couple days ago on Sunday, and then they have this one against Washington next Sunday, which should be a pretty interesting game as well.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to pick an AFC side, I mean, I would go probably an AFC South again, to kind of be even here. Jags sitting at 0-3 right now, and you got the league, the division leader, Houston. I believe it's Houston right now.
Yeah, Houston.
Yeah, Houston. Yeah, Houston. Obviously, everyone's expects them to make playoffs, and then the Colts kind of slowly getting back a little bit here, and then you got name the other team. I keep on forgetting.
Tennessee.
What's up?
Tennessee at 0-3.
Yeah, Tennessee. Yeah, but yeah. I mean, it just seems like it's Houston's division to win, but at the same time, it's like I think Houston had a reality check this week, and maybe you will see. You probably will see. Maybe the Jags might turn it around. They might not. Maybe the Colts will finally turn it up a little bit here. But it's definitely going to be interesting to see on what their division looks like a little bit. But yeah, if I had to do that, I would have to definitely pick the AFC South here, Aaron, and then a couple more topics I want to talk to you about. What did you kind of speaking of the AFC South and the Jags, what did you think about the game last night?
At some point during that game, I just eventually, just accepted the score, and I was like, all right, we won. I'm going to bed, and that was maybe like 6-7 minutes left in the game still.
Yeah.
At that point, I was just fully confident. There was no way, we were obviously gonna blow that one out of the waters. But yeah, man. I mean, you started out, 13-0, 13-0 at the end of the first. Then you scored 21 in the second. Second half was, a little bit, more quiet. Because that's when like essentially all the backups came in. Trubisky ended up coming in for Allen, and then you essentially had all your second and third stringers out there at that point. But I mean, I wasn't surprised that we won. I was surprised we won by that much.
Yeah,
because I did agree with. I mean, I was fully confident the Bills were going to win this game, but I did agree the whole aspect, like, of what Dan had said. Like, the Bills in the past are not great when it comes to the Jaguars. The Jaguars are always that sneaky team that always manages to beat us. I don't know why that is, but you had that game last year when they played Jacksonville in London. We lost that game. So it's like, it was very, I don't know. It was weird. It was a weird game for sure. I mean, am I glad we're, still undefeated 3-0? Absolutely. Am I glad we beat them by 37 points? Absolutely. I want to, obviously keep that, momentum going heading into, the 3-game road stand that we got in the next, coming 3 weeks. But it was definitely very surprising, seeing the score. But I mean, that's just, the Bills being the Bills, I guess.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of you, yeah, I mean, I fully agreed with you. I mean, I shut it off. I mean, like, me, and our group chat. It's very active during the games, and I wasn't fully confident until I saw 2-minute warning. We're up by so and so.
Yeah,
I didn't want to shut that off until I saw quadruple zeros on that clock, man. I mean, I think that's guaranteed for everybody who watches the game. And I was, as soon as they scored that touchdown coming out of half, man, I'm like, all right. I mean, here we go. Let's see what they can do on offense to see if they can keep repeating that. Hey, let's keep the momentum going. Let's not hold back. Let's run up the score. Let's see what the Jags can do. And that's exactly what they did. Josh didn't really do that much in the second half. He only threw a couple times here and there. It's mainly the James Cook show and the Ray Davis show and Ty Johnson's show, coming out of there. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
shout out to Ray Davis and Keon Coleman for getting their first career touchdowns. And going, kind of talking about Allen here. I mean, I've watched a lot of sports talks at lunchtime during work, and a lot of them are saying that he's been in the favor for MVP. I mean, yes, that is because I think he's being less reckless with the football. And you can chime in on this. Do you think, as of right now, obviously I'm kind of expecting it. We're all kind of not expecting it at the same time. Do you think when he does throw or when he does turn over the ball for the first time? I think he lost one during the Cardinals game. Yeah, he turned the ball over, but he didn't throw a pick. Do you
Mm-hmm.
think if and when he throws his first pick, do you kind of see that, you know, obviously not frustrating him, but kind of, maybe have a little bit of a reality check out at that point? I mean, do you think he's finally realizing, hey, he doesn't have to be that Superman all the time. You can see that, like you saw it yesterday. Throw the screen, throw the 2 yard pass and have him get 10 yards off that play. Like, what do you think we've seen differently this year out of all the other years that we've seen him?
I mean, yeah, it's just essentially, he's, yeah, like you said, he's not reckless. I mean, yeah, he did have, that fumble against Arizona, but I feel like, the fumbles are going to happen. If
Mm-hmm.
you get hit and he doesn't realize that, the ball's going to come out. Like, it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, as of, right now, he's doing a good job, protecting the ball and making sure that ball, doesn't get picked. There was I think there was a time during that Jags game because I was listening to it on the way home
Mm-hmm.
from the Sabres game. I had it on the radio, and I think there was a play he almost had an interception. It came close, I think.
I think that was I don't know what time you got home, but I think it was in either the second or third quarter, I believe.
Might have been in the second because
Might
I
have been
was
in the second, going in, almost going into half, I think, because he didn't, he read the coverage good, but there was kind of like three defenders in front of the intended receiver. Devin Lloyd was the intended, almost picked off, defensive player. So I mean, yeah, I mean, there was that one pass where I was like, why did you throw that? Why didn't you throw the Cook? But I mean, again, I mean, I'm happy that he's finally realizing, hey, I can finally relax. I can finally do my thing. Throw the ball to Shakir. Throw the ball to Coleman, Kincaid, Knox. Samuel will eventually get it going, and he'll start realizing it, and then the simple thing is just to hand the ball off, and
yeah
you got Cook. Cook will have it. Cook will have a 1 or 2 yard gain here and there. That's going to be coming here, and hey, and then like now you gotta have to make a throw, but you can rely on your guys to make that throw and to make a smart decision rather than let's throw it down the field and see what happens now.
I'll definitely give credit to the offensive line as well.
Oh
The
yeah.
offensive line has given him so much
Hmm.
time, and yeah, I feel like the offensive line is definitely pulling that weight off of his shoulders that he doesn't have to scramble as frequently. I
Yeah.
mean, I know how crazy Josh can get. He'll those design run plays or whatever that they create, and he'll manage like 20 yards out of it or whatever. Obviously, that's never going to go away because that's what Josh is good at.
Hmm.
He's good, throwing the ball, and he's good at running the ball, even if he's 6'5". It doesn't matter. But I definitely got to give credit to the offensive line, especially in that Jags game.
Hmm.
He had so much time to throw the ball, and I feel like that's obviously taken the weight off of his shoulders because he can finally settle down in the pocket and make that accurate throw that we know he can make. And it doesn't seem like that left hand is bothering him. I know he still has that hand wrapped up and gloved and everything, but it's obviously not bothering him. I noticed too when he was if it was a run play, he would hand it off with his
Awkwardly, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
he would hand it off awkwardly with his right hand. So I thought that was kind of weird, but they said that he's more comfortable handing it off that way. So I don't know if it's, because of the hand or that's just how he personally likes it. I
Yeah.
don't know, but I mean, as of right now, ratio wise, he's been really good. He's sitting at 7 touchdowns right now with no picks at the moment. So if he obviously keeps that going, he's obviously. Saw an article on this one app that I have. I think he passed Mahomes for one of the MVPs. I don't know who's first
Yeah.
as of right now, but he's definitely putting up numbers, that would definitely put him in the running for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and again, it's remained to be seen. I mean, I think these next 3 games will be the test of, okay, all right, Josh, we've seen what you do for the first 3 games. Now let's get into a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more, let's get more into more business mode. Let's see what you can do against Baltimore. Let's see what you can do against Houston, which is going to be a big
Yeah.
matchup. Let's see what
Yep.
you can do against the Jets in Jets territory on Monday
Mm-hmm.
night. So again, another Monday night situation. So we'll see what he can do in these next 3 games away from home. Again, that might play a factor. It might not. Maybe Bills fans might go down to New Jersey to go see rep their team, but we'll see in these next 3 games. It's going to be a big test. And I have a question for that. Do you think these are must win, these 3 games? Do you think they're going to go a perfect 3-0? Or do you think it's remained to be seen? Do you think it needs to be at least 2 out of 3? What do you think coming in these next 3 for them?
I mean, I don't think they have to win all three. I feel like if they could beat a team like Baltimore,
Mm-hmm.
and if they can go and beat a team like Houston after, this whole situation with Diggs and everything, um, I feel like that'll definitely assert themselves
Mm-hmm.
into the league. Because I mean, I'm sure everyone probably thought, we were going to beat Arizona. Um, Obviously, you have that question mark against Miami when they play in Miami. Like what type of Bills team are we going to see? And then the Jags is always, iffy. So I feel like a lot of people probably have, had different opinions for all 3 games. So yeah, this is essentially the time where if they could beat Baltimore, if they could beat Houston, and if they could beat the Jets, on Monday night, which I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's the Jets, that'll be another easy win. It's no game is never a gimme. Like I never want to take that, into consideration because we know the Bills all too well. They can
Mm-hmm.
have, a great run and then they can just absolutely crap the bed, the next couple weeks or whatever. Like I want them to just completely dominate these teams like Baltimore, like Houston. I want them to make a complete fool. I want them to make a complete fool out of Houston. Um, Pending, if we see them in the future in the playoffs or whatever. I want to see it. And I feel like, yeah, these next 3 games on the road are definitely going to essentially prove to the league if the Bills are, yes, legit, or hopefully, not if I don't want them to, lose the next 2 and it all comes crashing down back to reality. Like
Mm-hmm.
I want them to really prove themselves these next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and I know we're gonna get into those dog days of November, December,
Mm-hmm.
and we all know what will be coming up on the schedule for them come, I believe, in November. You're gonna have KC coming to town,
Yeah.
and so we're gonna be we're in for a fight. We are in for a fight with every team, I think, in my opinion. Once we can't always assume that we're going to win. We're going to be obviously assuming we're going to be going into, our mentality is, 1-0 every week. Coach McDermott says, Josh Allen says, 1-0 every week, 1-0 every week. And, that's the mentality I think they should still stick with. And, I mean, if they come out with, 2 out of 3, I'll be happy.
Oh yeah, 2 out of 3, I would definitely be happy.
Yeah, 2 out of 3, I'd definitely be happy. I mean, I'm not, like I said, it's a little nervous going into Baltimore Sunday night, another primetime game.
Yeah.
It's just that's the one I'm really kind of nervous about. Houston, I am nervous about, but we'll see how that fares after this game, how I'm feeling. And then going into Monday night against the Jets and obviously in New York, we'll see. Well, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see what the Jets are like too, because we never know what they're going to be. Aaron Rodgers every other week. You never know if he's going to be, the Aaron Rodgers we've seen, the old Aaron Rodgers, the mid Aaron Rodgers. We don't know. We don't know what Aaron Rodgers we're going to get. And, I'm glad that he's figuring it out too over there in New York. And again, like we'll see in these next few games to see what Josh can do, what the defense can, see what this defense is really made of, because yes, they're getting sacks, yes, they're getting pressure, and we all know about getting pressure. We haven't had that. I mean, we had that past couple of years, but we'll finally see let's see what the defense can finally hold up, to see if the secondary can keep up with Zay Flowers and Aguilar, and see if they can stop Henry and see if they can stop Lamar. And then obviously you got Houston with Tank and Nico and obviously everyone's fan favorite Diggs, to see what he can do. And and then obviously going to the Jets to see how Aaron Rodgers holds up against us, and see how he picks apart, if he can pick apart our defense. And I mean, big test coming up. But like I said, would you say I would say 2 out of 3 are probably must wins, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that, I mean, granted, a lot of people are, I mean, even me, like, no game is going to be an easy win.
Mm-mm.
But I think they're capable of beating the Jets. I think, in this, through the first 3 weeks, from what I've seen, I think they could beat Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that Houston game that's definitely concerning. I know they obviously had that big loss against Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's going to come down to, I was trying to go back to that Minnesota game. I'm trying to find it here. I mean, Sam Darnold, he wasn't that great during that game. Yes, he threw for 4 touchdowns, but he only had 181 yards, and 81 of those yards went to Justin Jefferson.
Yeah,
so
Justin Jefferson, yeah.
Yeah, it was mostly the run game that definitely helped push their win.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if they can get the run game going against Houston, if they can let James cook during that game, and it's still going to come down to the passing. If if Josh doesn't make any mistakes, if he can play how he's been playing, especially against that Jacksonville game, start off early, get the ball rolling early on, I feel like they'll be fine. But yeah, to answer your question, I'll definitely be happy. 2 out of the 3, I would definitely say I would be content, going into, that following week against, who would that be? Following week would be back home against Tennessee.
Yep.
So I'd be very content coming back home at like 5-1, facing a team like Tennessee, obviously not worried about that. But I mean, I want them to, obviously take these games, as they can, because it's like we're 3 weeks in now. And, just jumping, a little ahead into the schedule, after that Monday night game against the Jets, you got Tennessee, which, okay, whatever. You got an undefeated team in Seattle that you have to go to. So, I mean, that's obviously going to be a fun game. You got Miami again. You got, the Colts, the Chiefs, obviously. You got your bye. But then, it's like December, you got the 49ers, the Rams, the Lions, the Patriots, the Jets again, and then you finish off with the Patriots. So
Yeah.
it's if you look ahead, you got your tough teams in there. December especially. I know the Rams aren't playing good, but you still got to worry about the Rams. I know Cooper Kupp is out right now, but I'm sure he'll be back, during that game. So it's like you have a lot of tough teams ahead of you. So you definitely want to start off hot. You want to start off with a fairly decent record.
Yeah.
And I feel like this is the first half of what we have to see, and then come December is your second half. So I want them to have a good first half, obviously, so they can finish off with a good second half.
Yeah, and kind of like I said, piggybacking off of you, yeah, and you got these like I said, these next 3 weeks we've already talked about, and then you go into Tennessee, kind of see what they're made of, and then obviously you'll get into the Seattle, which obviously we're going into Seattle, so which is never easy, as every team can probably say, it's never easy going into Seattle to beat Seattle, and then we got I believe you said the Chiefs after that, I think at home, if I'm not mistaken, or the Dolphins at home.
Yeah, it was the Dolphins after Seattle.
Yeah, Dolphins after Seattle, and then we got the Chiefs going into the bye. Then we got the Niners too. Don't forget about them.
Yeah.
But and then that's a Monday night too, I believe.
Well, that one's a Sunday night.
So Sunday night. Oh wow, okay. But yeah, and then so I mean, if you're going into that last game before the Chiefs, if you're sitting pretty, let's say that's we're on week 4. We're going to be going on to week 4, so that would be week 8, I believe. No, week
going into the Chiefs game.
That's
Let's see. Well, you have a week 12 bye.
So that's week 11.
That'd be week 11.
So if you going in, so say, would you be comfortable? Would you be comfortable at? I wouldn't say really 10-1. Would you be more?
That'd be great.
That would be ideal, but I
don't think they'll be 10-1.
What about would you be comfortable with 8-3 or 9-2?
Would you be I don't know. 8-3. 8-3 definitely still concerns me heading into the Chiefs game, because let's say they do lose, you're at 8-4, and then you have 3 tough games after that, in my opinion. So if you lose those next 3, then you're sitting at 8-7. So I would definitely want to be 9-2 heading into that Chiefs game, because that Chiefs game is going to be a coin flip, essentially. See what I did there?
Yeah, I see what you did there.
But yeah, I would 8-3. I feel like is just not enough for me. I would want to be sitting pretty at 9-2 at that point.
Yeah, going into KC. I mean, I would feel comfortable. I mean, again, we don't know a lot of variables. Like I said, going into the season, again, we have that late bye, so it's like we do have that time where, okay, let's go into the next game, and then we finally get some rest, and then you'll get into December eventually, and maybe Milano will be back in the lineup. If we'll finally make that final push to win the division or secure clinch a spot for a playoff berth. So I mean, yeah, again, I mean, it's remained to be seen. I mean, as far as I can see, they've been playing really well. Again, it remains to be seen. I think these next 3 games, I think, again, a solidified 2 wins out of these next 3. Ideally, everyone wants 3 out of 3, but if 2 out of 3 happens, I will be more than happy for that. Yeah, and then kind of not really wrapping it up, but kind of wrapping up, one final game for us, Aaron, before we conclude today. Commanders in Cincinnati, man. Again, you didn't really watch it. I don't know if you have a chance to watch the highlights today, but it was the Jaden Daniels show, and it's kind of a game I wanted to highlight and kind of get your thoughts. What's going on? What do you think's going on in Cincinnati, man?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe this whole, Jamar Chase drama that with the whole contract, situation, I feel like that's definitely probably playing a big part in his game. I mean, don't get me wrong, like he played really well during that game. He had over 100 yards, 2 scores, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's Joe Burrow
Mm-hmm.
that's the problem. I don't know. They don't have Joe Mixon anymore, so they don't really have that solidified run game.
Mm-hmm.
They did sign Zach Moss, who's been playing fairly well. They do have Chase Brown, who's probably gonna be the starter at some point. So it's like, yeah, you lose Mixon, so that's obviously unfortunate. He's having, a great season in Houston right now. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's just too much drama going on in Cincinnati, and I feel like, that's bringing everyone down. It's bringing, the whole offense down, it feels like, because it's like they've, let's see, I was going to go to their schedule. Their first game they played New England. I mean, I don't know how you lose that game. You only put up 10 points. That's
Mm-hmm.
just unacceptable. And then you go to KC and you only lose by 1, which, okay, fine. That was what, like a last second field goal or something that they
Yeah,
lost by.
off of a PI.
Yeah. And then you lose to Washington, which, I mean, that's still kind of surprising. I mean, I know Washington's been kind of on the rise as of late, but it's, yeah, I don't know. I feel like they should have had at least 2 wins by now. And then you're going into Carolina, and it's like now, again, it should be another win. It should be a win for them, but it's like Carolina's obviously going to start Andy Dalton again.
Yeah.
So it's like that's kind of not guaranteed anymore, because it's like, is Andy Dalton going to perform the way he did again against the Raiders, against the Bengals? So it's like
Yeah.
that's kind of like a toss up now. So yeah, I don't know what's going on, with Cincinnati, but I mean, I'm all for it because I know Cincinnati is, they're always that kind of underdog team that can, slide into the playoffs and, make a name for themselves. But yeah, I don't know. I know Joe Burrow. I think he said in a press conference or something. He's not worried. He wants to just take it, 1 week at a time. He's not worried about playoffs right now because we're
Yeah.
still so far out from the playoffs right now. So he's just still gonna just take it week by week.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it obviously starts with this Carolina game, because then you got to come home, play Baltimore,
Hmm.
and then your schedule's kind of after that. You got some tough teams after that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like they gotta, if they want to get this ball moving, they gotta start this weekend if they
Yeah.
want to start going again.
Yeah, and and I don't know what going off of Jamar Chase, maybe it is maybe it is the contract, maybe he saw, obviously everyone saw CD's contract, and you know everyone was wondering about CD because were the Cowboys going to pay him, were they not going to pay him, and I think I think maybe, it's starting to get into his head, maybe I deserve that money. And, obviously we all know NFL players, they all deserve any kinds of money. That, I mean, you can name anybody who's wanting a contract, I want to be the highest paid this, I want to be highest paid that.
Mm-hmm.
Even, I hate to say it, but even kickers are even saying that now too. You even want to be the highest paid kicker now. I mean, everybody wants to be number one in their payroll range. And, with Jamar, I mean, shout out to Jamar, but obviously, I think maybe he doesn't deserve the money that CD got. But would you put CD and Jamar in the same category? You would say?
I don't know. I probably wouldn't. I mean, I know he's saying this thing that he wants to get. He obviously, like you said, he wants to be the highest paid wide receiver. If that means he gets that one penny more,
Mm-hmm.
than what Justin Jefferson got, then
Mm-hmm.
that's what it has then that's what it has to be. He
Mm-hmm.
wants to get that extra penny so he can be the top wide receiver in the league, making the most. So it's
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I would put him in that same category. I mean, from what going back to like last year or whatever, obviously didn't see a lot of Justin Jefferson with that injury that he had.
Mm-hmm.
CD Lamb was obviously the number one guy when it came to, being the best wide receiver in the league. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I probably wouldn't put him in that conversation. I mean, obviously Jamar's a top 5 wide receiver, I would say. But I mean, a lot of people can argue that. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, granted, Dallas isn't playing well.
Mm-hmm.
CD, isn't himself from what we saw last year. So it's like I feel like Jamar is playing better as of right now. But if you're, going back to last year or whatever, I
Mm-hmm.
probably wouldn't put them, in the same boat. I mean, it's close. It's definitely close.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't think, in my opinion, Jamar deserves
Mm-hmm.
more than what
Yeah.
Jefferson is making.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I just feel like you should just take your money, play football, and help your
be
team
done.
win a damn game.
And help your team win the damn game. And it remains to be seen. Worst case scenario, hypothetical saying, Jamar leaves for another team next year.
I
It'll be
mean,
interesting. It'd be interesting to see. And I bet you a lot of people in Cincinnati probably are like, yeah, but hey, you never know. But they might franchise tag him. But if they can't get something done.
yeah,
But it's nothing ruled out with that. And then I do want to give a quick shout out to the Commanders, obviously, too. Give them some love. I mean, I think they played great. I mean, like you said, we touched on Jane Daniels already. We touched on Scary Terry. We touched on the running backs. Defense played really solid, I think, against Cincinnati. I think obviously it came down to I think like I said, I don't know if you watched it, but it came down to like the last couple minutes here, and
hmm
they turned it down. They shut it down, and maybe this is the start of the Commanders. Finally being on the uprise. Like I said, I didn't see anything wrong with the Commanders last night. Jaden Daniels pitched a perfect game. I mean, it's hard to do that nowadays. It's hard to do. Kind of hard not to do no turnovers. Here and there. Obviously, yes. Again, I going back to Allen reference. I know he hasn't turned it over yet. Knock on wood.
yeah,
It is hard. I mean, and Jane Daniels, I didn't think Jane Daniels was going into a good situation, but he wasn't going into a bad situation at all either. So again, it's remains to be seen what the Commanders have done. I don't know. Did you have any comments on the Commanders, or just
I
pretty much?
mean, yeah, I mean, yeah, that was pretty much it. I mean, yeah, Jaden Daniels, he had a great game. I know, yeah, we covered it a little bit. They don't. Well, I mean, I guess I shouldn't say they don't really have a running game. I mean, they do. They split, with Eckler and Robinson. Eckler has his days, Robinson has his days, and then, obviously, yeah, I mean, Terry McLaurin, he's obviously the highlight, of that receiving group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see. I mean, like Washington is a very iffy team. Like like I know they're good like on paper. They've been, in my opinion, they've been good on paper for like a while. It's just trying to find, obviously that new number one. And
Yeah.
I definitely think that they have found it. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's tough. I feel like going into like that Commanders situation. Um, but I mean, he's been playing like he's been there for years.
Yeah.
So it's obviously, great to see. And, I obviously hope it, continues because I would like to, see a little bit, of a difference come like playoff time or whatnot. So, I mean, it would be great to see, a team like Washington maybe squeak in the long run. So, I mean, yeah, I do hope that their success continues over there in Washington.
Yeah. And so pretty much at the now. We're basically at the tail end of this now, Aaron. Wanted to thank you for coming on here today, and I wanted to thank you for joining me on my first episode, and many more to come. Many more to come with you on there. Hopefully, I know you got a busy schedule coming up here with the Box Network coming up, and everyone stay tuned. Again, shout out to them. Shout out to the Kelly cast again. Like I said, couldn't have done this without both of them. They really got me supporting, really got me going on this episode. So I wanted to shout out, I want to shout out Aaron, and I want to shout out, Dan and Zach too for kind of mashing my brain a little bit to see how episode 1 will go. And like I said, I wanted to thank all of them. Shout out to both their channels. Don't forget to like and subscribe for them. Keep on an eye out for those episodes. Again, thank you again, Aaron, for coming on, for joining me on episode 1. Thank you for tuning in. If you watched this long in the video, this is kind of where I would like kind of to be kind of see how the recording does, kind of see how everything comes out, and yeah. So thank you very much for everyone for tuning in. Thank you for everyone for tuning into the Inside the Sidelines episode 1. Many more to come after this. Again, thank you, Aaron, for joining me on the episode 1. Can't thank you enough, buddy. And again, everybody who tunes into this podcast, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and give me some feedback. Leave a like on the video and subscribe. And as always, Aaron, and as always, fans of the Sideline podcast, thank you very much for tuning in today. I hope you all enjoy, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take it easy, everybody.